Welcome back to The Deep Dive. Today, we're going to dig into the very foundation of knowledge itself. We're looking at this really profound, I'd even say radical claim from a research paper by the Human and AI Learning Institute, or HALE.
Right, HALE.
And it fundamentally challenges the order, the very sequence in which we educate ourselves.
It really turns a lot of modern assumptions on their head.
It does. So, the mission for us today is to unpack their central argument. They're essentially saying that for humanity to get to, true sustainable progress, classical spiritual education must come first. It has to precede scientific education, not run parallel to it, not follow it.
And that's the bold switch, right? Because we're so used to systems built on, rational inquiry and empiricism.
Exactly. But the HALE paper says we've been mistaken about the bedrock this whole time. They want to shift the whole essence from human knowledge to first, divine knowledge.
And what really stood out to me is that they position the spiritual grounding not as, an optional extra.
Like an add-on class.
Right. It's the non-negotiable prerequisite. They call it the essential ethical compass.
An ethical compass, yeah.
And the source of moral resilience.
Yeah.
You have to have that structure firmly in place before you hand someone the powerful tools of science and technology.
So it's not a question of which is better.
No, it's not about which is superior. It's a question of chronological priority.
Yeah.
Their argument boils down to this. If the knowledge of how the world works isn't guided by a deep understanding of how we should interact with each other and the planet,
then what happens?
the outcome, they argue, is inherently unstable.
And that instability, that's exactly where their critique of our current system comes in. I mean, for centuries, our modern systems have excelled because they rely on human knowledge.
Of course. Empirical data, rational thought.
Technical skill.
Sure.
And let's be fair, the advances have been extraordinary.
No one's denying that.
We've harnessed power, we've cured diseases, connected the entire globe instantly. That is the triumph of the current system. But the HALE research suggests we celebrated that triumph while completely ignoring a critical failure point.
Which is?
That when all that tremendous power is detached from a clear, shared ethical purpose, it creates a dangerous imbalance.
The technical capability just races ahead of our moral clarity.
Yes. And they argue this isn't just theoretical. This is the defining crisis of our age.
Right. The source points directly to the concrete consequences we see every single day. Things that are direct symptoms of this foundational imbalance.
Like what? What are the examples they give?
Well, take environmental degradation. We have the sophisticated scientific knowledge to sustain the planet. We know how to do it.
We do?
Yet we repeatedly deploy technology to exploit it. That's not a knowledge gap. They say it's a failure of ethical prioritization.
An ethical failure. Okay.
And they cite pervasive inequity, where incredible technical advances, AI, medical breakthroughs, they end up benefiting an ever smaller percentage of the population.
Deepening the global divide.
Exactly. And then there's the chilling reference to the development of destructive technologies.
I saw that. It's a heavy point.
It is. The paper implies that if you develop the ability to build a weapon of mass destruction without an internalized, unwavering commitment to human unity,
the outcome is predictable.
And potentially catastrophic. The critique is that our current system prioritized knowing and doing before it established any real foundation for right action.
So the consequences aren't just like side effects.
No, they're baked into the system itself. They're part of the unguided nature of the technical pursuit.
Okay, so that establishes the urgency for their proposed shift. If human knowledge alone, which is cumulative, fallible, always changing, if that's not enough to guide us, then what's the alternative foundation?
And that brings us right to their proposal, divine knowledge, or revelation.
This is where the paper draws a very sharp distinction, and I think it's a critical point for you, the listener, to grasp what they actually mean by divine knowledge versus human knowledge.
It is. And they use specific Bahá'í writings to define this difference, which is fascinating.
Why that source specifically?
Because that framework inherently seeks to unite spiritual and material progress. It's not an either. In it, human knowledge is defined as cumulative, we build on the past, but it's also inherently fallible.
Right. Science is a process of constantly proving itself wrong to get closer to the truth.
Exactly. Divine knowledge, in contrast, is described as something revealed through manifestations of God. It offers these timeless moral and spiritual principles.
So that's the constant, the unwavering ethical framework.
Precisely because it's beyond the capacity of any single human mind to just invent or alter.
That choice of source material is it's really interesting. It seems to avoid a lot of the specific, sectarian rituals and dogmas of older systems.
It does. It leans heavily on principles like the unity of humanity and the harmony between science and religion.
Which makes it a pretty good candidate for an ethical framework designed to guide a scientific age.
I think so.
But let me bring up the critical tension here. Because for many listeners, the idea of integrating divine knowledge as the bedrock of a global educational system, it sounds wildly impractical, maybe even impossible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How do you do that without just replacing one form of dogma with another? Or violating the separation of church and state?
Exactly that. How do they address that?
That's the most important question, and the paper's very sensitive to it. In fact, the source material they use provides its own answer, its own guardrails.
Okay.
They quote Bahá'u'lláh, who stresses the necessity of schools first training children in the principles of religion. But, and this is the key part, specifically guarding against the development of ignorant fanaticism and bigotry.
So it's not a call for rigid indoctrination.
Not at all. It's a call for an ethical orientation that is universally applicable. And that orientation is clarified by Abdu'l-Bahá when he distinguishes the two kinds of knowledge.
Oh, so.
Human knowledge deals with things perceptible to the senses, what we can measure, what we can observe.
The material world.
Right. Divine knowledge deals with things beyond the reach of the senses, the moral law, the purpose of life, the nature of our connection to one another.
So spiritual education in this context is really about teaching fundamental universal virtues, the spiritual reality of being human. It's not about denominational doctrine.
You've got it. It's providing the why for the how. Science tells you how to build a city. These principles tell you why you should build it equitably and sustainably.
It's the framework that's missing.
The framework that is fundamentally missing when systems rely purely on the fallible knowledge of human minds.
Now, here is where the research gets really meticulous, because it doesn't just stay in the realm of theology. It grounds this imperative in developmental science.
Yes, and contemporary psychology.
So it's not just a philosophical argument for priority, it's a psychological one.
It is. The source highlights a crucial specific finding. Early childhood, from ages 3 to 6, is the critical window for moral and spiritual formation.
3 to 6, that is early.
Very. And the paper argues that if you miss that window for instilling core values, the job of establishing lifelong ethical clarity becomes exponentially harder.
Maybe even impossible.
Possibly. It's a developmental imperative. If we accept that this period is when the foundation is poured, then the Hale paper details exactly what needs to be taught.
And what is that?
3 things: awe, empathy, and virtue. Mastering those concepts at that formative stage that establishes the deep-seated resilience you need to navigate a complex, technologically powerful world.
Can you break that down a bit?
Sure. Think about it. A child who learns deep empathy before they ever learn chemistry is far more likely to use that chemistry for healing than for harm.
It's an internal regulator.
A constant internal regulator.
Yeah.
It's like the difference between learning how to drive a car without ever having learned the concept of a safe speed or the value of human life.
Well, we have to go back to that critical warning, because history is just littered with examples where systems that were meant to instill morality
Evolved into rigid control.
Exactly. So how does the Hale paper ensure this spiritual foundation doesn't become a tool for fanaticism, for bigotry, for sectarian violence? They have those 3 mandates, right?
Yes, the 3 mandates. They are the core mechanism that prevents the spiritual roots from becoming rigid and bigoted. They're foundational to the whole paper's success.
So what are they? What are those specific guardrails?
Okay, the first is that the system must encourage inquiry alongside reverence. It can't be rote dogma.
So questioning is okay. It's encouraged.
It's required. The pursuit of truth has to be active, questioning, engaging the rational mind. This keeps the spiritual understanding dynamic and guards against superstition.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the second?
The second is an absolute emphasis on inclusivity and the unity of humanity.
So that directly counters the us versus them mentality.
Actively dismantles it. It forces the application of all knowledge toward global service.
And the third mandate is humility. How does that function as like an active defense against dogmatism?
Humility, in this context, is defined as the understanding that no single individual, no single scientific perspective, and no single religious tradition has full, complete access to the ultimate truth.
If you internalize that at age 5,
It fundamentally alters how you approach all knowledge, both spiritual and scientific, for the rest of your life.
how so?
It means scientific claims are held provisionally, and ethical claims are viewed through a lens of continuous learning. So those three, inquiry, unity, and humility, they transform spiritual education from a fixed set of beliefs into a methodology for ethical engagement.
And that makes it safe to then proceed to the next stage.
Precisely.
So once those ethical roots are firmly in the ground, once a child has that compass set between 3 and 6, how does the scientific education, the part we all recognize, get introduced?
Well, that's the integration model, and it's crucial. Scientific education isn't delayed indefinitely. It's introduced rapidly once that foundation is secure.
But the difference is?
The difference is it's not taught in a vacuum. The two streams are designed to constantly inform each other. Science provides the means, and spirituality provides the meaning.
And this results in 3 key benefits of integration that they say define what holistic progress really is. First, you get guidance. Spirituality actively directs science towards service, human dignity, global benefit. Science is no longer an end in itself. Second, you achieve balance. Science grounds spirituality, right? It keeps it from floating off into impracticality or superstition.
It keeps the spiritual quest rational and applicable to the material world.
And the combination of those two achieves
Holism. And the paper has this wonderful, memorable symbol for it.
right, the hands, heart, and eyes.
Exactly. The hands represent science, the power to act, to create. The heart is spirituality, the guiding purpose. And the eyes are humility, the clear, unbiased vision that prevents fanaticism. It's a complete system.
That structural view is incredibly helpful, but the Hale paper uses an even more comprehensive symbol to illustrate the entire process, doesn't it? The tree analogy.
The tree analogy, yes.
Yeah.
It's the distillation of their whole thesis. If you envision education as a growing tree, the roots are the spiritual education.
The prerequisite, unseen, but essential.
Can't have a tree without roots. Then the trunk is the integration process itself, that ongoing dynamic balance between the moral and material realities.
Connecting the foundation to the application.
And then you have the branches. The branches are scientific education, the wide variety of technical skills, empirical knowledge, all the professional capacities we develop.
So if science is the branches, then the applications themselves are actually less important than the root system that sustains them.
Their health is entirely dependent on the ethical clarity established at the very beginning.
And the final step, the measure of success, is
The fruit. The fruit is wisdom, which they define as knowledge applied ethically for humanity's collective progress.
so ensuring that technical advance actually benefits everyone, that it doesn't degrade the planet or human unity.
Exactly. And the whole framework argues that if the fruit is bitter, if our technology leads to inequity and destruction, it's definitive proof that the root system was faulty from the start.
It's a tremendous argument for rethinking the very essence of what we consider modern education. The Hale researchers are fundamentally saying that our current trajectory is unsustainable because the foundation is flawed.
Utterly flawed.
It has to shift from being rooted solely in cumulative human knowledge to being rooted first in timeless moral knowledge, to ensure the science that follows is always guided by ethical clarity and service.
That's the argument in a nutshell.
So what does this deep dive mean for you? If we accept the Hale paper's premise that this spiritual foundation ensures scientific application is directed towards service and dignity, let's leave you with a final provocative thought. Given the pervasive inequity and the environmental crises we currently face, what does the observed lack of that good fruit imply about the priorities and the ultimate trajectory of our existing unrooted technological advancements?
That's a powerful question.
If we continue to achieve these staggering material advances without prioritizing unity, dignity, and ethical clarity, is that success ultimately self-defeating? Something to chew on. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.